Welcome to Sports Frenzy 2.0 as we anxiously await black or white. Are we getting a new pope? We're on Pope Watch here. What the fuck am I doing? What the hell am I doing? This is Sports Frenzy 2.0, baby.
This is the sports edition, not the pop culture edition, which airs on Saturday mornings.
We wouldn't even do Pope Watch on Saturday morning. Really, honestly. What am I thinking here?
You're getting all swept up in the history of everything.
I'm getting all swept up in the, God help me for saying it, marginal, somewhat exciting NBA playoffs. Here as we tape on May the 7th, 2025, dropping.
Buzzer beater after buzzer beater. Upsets galore.
Now, Dave and I always say, we're getting a little sick and tired. Everything's a record. Everything's a new mark. Everything is now the benchmark that can never be beaten again. But I'm telling you, and I'm not watching these games except for the last 5 minutes, because that's really all you need to watch.
Yeah, let's face it.
But holy hell, we've moved on into the second round. So to recap, for all you kids out there, when it comes to the NBA playoffs, the Timberwolves beat the Lakers in 5. Thank God I didn't bet my $20. Because Luka looks like a fat, lazy alcoholic. And LeBron, I hurt myself again. I can't even go to the Met Gala.
And dare we say that their coach made the right statement that to make a run next year, this team better come into camp in shape.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes over.
It needed to be said. And some of that was on him, not substituting well in the second half.
We'll see, because we know in the NBA, the inmates run the asylum.
Yep.
So the T-Wolves move on. The Knicks beat the Pistons in 6. The Nuggets beat the Clippers in 7. And once again, James Harden proves he is the most overrated compiler of all time. And if people show up when he gets put in the Hall of Fame, they should boo him mercilessly. The beard.
Yeah.
Oh, he can't wait to put in just the bare amount of effort to make himself look good and then head off to the strip clubs. That's all he cares about. That's all he's cared about for, 15 years now?
Yeah. He's supposed to be one of the stars of the game. He should be in contention for one of the greatest of all time if he put max effort in and game out. When he shows up, he can be lights frickin' out. But he doesn't do it on a consistent basis. Maybe once every 2 weeks you might get a phenomenal performance, and the rest is very pedestrian.
And that does not work in the playoffs, and that's why he will never get a ring. He will never, ever get a ring. And then Golden State ends up beating the Houston Rockets in 7. So that sets up where we are right now.
First game of these series are already complete.
Yeah, we've actually got 2 games in on the Pacers Cavaliers. So we've got 5 total games in the second round.
Yep.
For the first time ever, the road teams won every game.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
To open the second round.
The Knicks come back from being down 20 to beat the Celtics. Then you get the Nuggets beating the Thunder on a buzzer-beating three-pointer. Pacers beat the Cavs. And, of course, what was it? The second game, Haliburton hit a buzzer-beater.
After rebounding his own missed free throw.
Yeah. Crazy.
Oh, but he is the most overrated player in the league. You suck it! You suck it!
He's better than Harden.
Because I can't deal with this anymore. I'm a Magic fan. We got our own issues. But we record this show in Indiana. So the Pacers I do follow. in a limited capacity.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with Tyrese Haliburton. I know you're not as big of a fan as I am, but
No, he's always performed.
he will play well in the clutch.
Yeah,
like
he
you said,
shows
as
up when
opposed
it's
to
needed.
a James Harden or a dozen other superstars we could name.
Yeah.
LeBron.
Yep, and then, of course, the Warriors did beat the Timberwolves and have lost Steph Curry for a few games with the pulled hamstring.
Yeah, and that seems to be one of the recurring themes here as we move into the second round. Because, of course, as I try to stick up for the home state team, the Pacers, all the haters, the national media, oh, they're the luckiest team ever. They always get the break. The Cavaliers have 3 players injured. So what are they supposed to do? Concede?
So what? You're supposed to take advantage of the situation.
I don't feel bad for Cleveland at all.
No.
It's just the way things happen.
Yep. Life goes on.
So to recap.
So what? Everybody's supposed to roll over and let the Cavs just win until they get their 3 guys back? No, that's not how it works.
No. So to recap, you've got Denver up on OKC 1-0. Pacers up 2-0 on the Cavs. Both wins on the road. Golden State up 1-0 on Minnesota, but as Dave said, injury issue with Steph Curry. That 1-0 win on the road isn't as impressive now as you would normally think.
Yep.
And then you have the Knicks 1-0 up on the Celtics because the Celtics post a historically bad night in Game 1.
Oof, that was some awful shooting.
Playoff record, 45 missed three-pointers.
Yeesh.
Now, I did a little digging, did a little research. So the 45 missed three-pointers is a playoff record. The overall record goes back to 2019. Regular season, the Houston Rockets missed 47 in one game.
That's cold.
Well, and here's the thing. You and I have said this. The three-point shot has destroyed basketball.
It has. Everybody relies on it.
And I know
you can't rely on it.
I know you like the Celtics, but they are the worst perpetrators. That's all they do.
They just put up 3 after put up 3, put up a 3, put up a 3. How about you concede and go with a 2 once in a while? Get the points. Quit going over.
Now,
if you're cold, then you start going inside.
Now, do I think the Knicks are going to win this series? No. No. No, as we look at these 4 series where the road team has won the first game, and the Pacers, of course, have won the first 2, I would think the Pacers are the only ones that still have I think they've got a lock now. Winning 2 on the road.
They've got home court right now.
Big time. And I think they're going to beat the Cavs. I still think the Celtics beat the Knicks. I still think the Timberwolves will beat Golden State, especially with Steph being hurt. And I still think OKC.
They should.
That one's going to be close.
That's going to come down to, I can see that going 7.
That's going to be a Game 7. Absolutely. All right, in other NBA news, Dave rattled off a lot of these, but the NBA lovers out there in the media will be quick to say that we have now had a record already, as we're only just a smidge into the second round. We've already had 4 20-point comeback wins in the playoffs, which is already a record. And again, we're only just starting the second round. So
the 3-pointer.
Yeah.
You get hot, you can come back. You go cold, you let the other team back. Live and die by it.
Yep. Your Coach of the Year. We don't discuss all the awards, but the major ones. So this week it's Coach of the Year. Went to Kenny Atkinson of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And
I'd say that's well-deserved.
Despite what's going on right now against the Pacers. Here's a head-scratcher. the Utah Jazz, and if you're not keeping track at home, why would you? Because the Jazz suck. Even with Danny Ainge, the architect of what we're looking at now with Boston, he put that team together. But the Jazz are terrible.
Yeah, they're just not good.
But they extend their head coach, Will Hardy, through 2031.
So you've got an underperforming coach getting extended, whereas you've had championship caliber coaches fired before the end of this season. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and those coaches are already, teams are speculating about where those coaches are going to end up. But the Jazz say, no, we're good.
No, you're not.
And I still got my other big prediction still alive. Yes, I failed miserably on the Lakers. But the Spurs, I still think the basketball gods could end up screwing the Jazz. I don't know. Does Danny Ainge think they're going to get Cooper Flag and all of a sudden become the next great team? Well, Victor Wembanyama hasn't turned the Spurs around.
Nope.
But if they get yet another number one pick,
it's the Popovich sympathy draft.
You got it, buddy. As Greg Popovich, and they paraded him out there for this retirement speech, and it was a little bit depressing and scary. You could tell the stroke really has affected him.
Yeah.
But they had Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili out there with him, and he's taking off his jacket. I am now El Jefe. And I'm like, this is a little cringy. Creepy. Little creepy.
It was a little cringy.
But Greg Popovich is done as Spurs head coach. Mitch Johnson will take over. And here's a little fun trivia game for you to play at home. If you're like Dave and I dare you to name half the head coaches in the NBA. I couldn't. I couldn't.
Nope.
All right, in college basketball, this boggles my mind that last fall, when the college basketball season kicked off, well, mixing my metaphors, tipped off. We were talking about Florida head coach Todd Golden being investigated under Title IX for harassment and stalking. Now, amazing. 7 months later, everything's turned around. He's won a national title with the Gators men's program, and he gets a 6-year, $40.5 million extension, taking him through the 2030-2031 season. So
winning covers everything.
I was just going to say, success covers up the stank.
Yes, it does.
In hockey's a little bit behind basketball, as they are really just getting going with their second round. The Jets and the Stars have not even started yet.
Yep.
That first game is tonight.
As we tape this on May 7th.
Toronto is up 1-0 on the Florida Panthers. The Edmonton Oilers up 1-0 on the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And the Carolina Hurricanes are up 1-0 on the Washington Capitals.
Yep. And then we had the draft lottery take place live on TV for the first time.
Was it really? For the first time?
Because usually they did the reveal on TV. This is the first time they actually drew the numbers.
Okay. Interesting. I did not know that.
Yep. So, the Islanders win the number 1 overall pick. They had a 3.5% chance. And they got it and jumped up. So, your top 5 draft order: the Islanders, the Sharks, the Blackhawks, the Utah Mammoth,
which, by the way, Go ahead and finish up.
And then the Predators.
We talked about the Mammoth last week because they, of course, leaked it.
Yeah.
Because you can't keep anything secret anymore. That is a badass logo.
That's pretty damn cool.
That is a badass logo.
They did a nice job with that.
I love
that
it.
Is very cool.
Love it. Immediately, one of the coolest.
Yep.
So at least these expansion teams are figuring out.
Get the logo and the name
Kraken,
right.
Mammoth, cool stuff.
Yes.
I love it.
Very cool.
And then you've got the Cleveland Browns. Brownie.
With Brownie. God. Brownie the elf.
If any team needed a revamp, it's them.
Yeah, you would have thought they got it when they moved to Baltimore. But alas.
All right, moving on to football. Let's do some football here. A little bit of news. Some significant news on the NFL front. First up, we have a destination for the 2027 draft, which has now become a spectacle beyond all belief.
Washington, D.C., set to take place on the National Mall.
Where they're expecting a total over the 3 days of over 1 million people.
Yep. That's actually going to be a pretty damn cool backdrop for the draft.
Can't wait to see Trump there. Can't wait. It's going to be huge. Huge. America. Go America.
It's going to be one of the greatest spectacles America has ever seen.
And on the flip side of that,
oof,
the Ravens end up cutting ties with... Is he a Hall of Famer now? Has he ruined his chances of being in the Hall of Fame? Kicker Justin Tucker.
This is going to be interesting when it comes due, all depending on how these lawsuits play out. Now, the Ravens say it was a football decision. And actually, by having...
Bullshit!
Sorry. You could take it with a grain of salt. Tucker had his worst season of kicking ever.
He did. And
he was dead last in kicking last season. And they did pick up a top kicker in the draft.
Yes, they did.
So, by rights, yes, it can be considered a football decision.
Well, here's what will actually show everybody. If people believe in him, because you're right. You're absolutely right. He had a terrible season last year.
He's been on the downward spiral the last two seasons.
But kickers can usually last, a great kicker can usually last into the late 30s, early 40s. Right? Morton Anderson.
Yeah.
Even Sebastian Janikowski.
Got to the 40. Tucker's, 36?
Yeah, he's
so
mid-30s.
He's right in that borderline.
Will somebody else pick him up? That's going to be
the question.
The litmus test for, is he toxic? Or was this, and will this be perceived by the rest of the league as a football move, like you said? Very interesting to see.
Yeah.
And of course,
still going to be subject to the NFL discipline
the
policy.
elephant in the room, of course, is the accusations from the massage therapists.
Yep, and even if it doesn't necessarily become of anything like Watson, he could still get suspended.
Which I don't like. Which I've never liked. You're absolutely 100% right, but that's why I don't like the quote-unquote justice system in the NFL. You are guilty until proven innocent in the NFL, where it should be the other way around, right? That's how the legal system works in our country.
Unless you have stone cold dead to rights on video, then I think all bets are off.
Well, that was Ray Rice, and that was still, to me, that was the first moment of Roger Goodell's downfall.
Yeah.
Was how he botched the Ray Rice situation. Because that was on video for all to see.
And he saw it before it got released to the public.
How many times did he revise the punishment? At least twice?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with Justin Tucker. Now, Dave and I are always you know, the Bears have screwed us in the past in this, but when other teams do it, yeah, we tend to make fun of them for terrible, awful, horrible money management. So the Jacksonville Jaguars,
Oof.
Duval, decided after 1 year,
Default.
Gabe Davis they brought in from the Buffalo Bills. Said, okay, we're going to pair him up with Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley. We're going to have this awesome, dynamic wide receiver core to help out Trevor Lawrence. Yes, the horn of disgrace. 1 year in to a 3-year deal, the Jaguars release Gabe Davis, and they're going to gleefully accept a $20.3 million dead cap hit this year.
Ouch.
Yeah. But of course, the big news happened this morning. Again, as we tape on May the 7th. The Steelers trade wide receiver George Pickens, who you have kind of had a thing for in fantasy football the last few years.
Not panning out.
But where does he end up going?
Dallas. Yes, Pickens could be considered the next CeeDee Lamb.
Except they've already got CeeDee
Well,
Lamb.
no, sorry. Let me rephrase that. They've paired him up with CeeDee Lamb. He could be the next Amari Cooper. Somebody who's got the talent, but doesn't know how to use it and doesn't show up regularly.
I think you said it perfectly.
But yeah, he
honestly.
could be another CeeDee Lamb, too.
So the details of the trade are basically Pickens goes to Dallas for a 2026 third-round pick, and then there's a 27 pick swap, 5th for a 6th, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
But
the immaturity of those mercurial receivers.
You've already got CeeDee Lamb, who's not very happy, even though he was more than willing to sign on with a big new deal.
Yep.
But everybody's looking at what he's posting on social media, and everybody's trying to read into that. And now you bring in arguably the biggest head case.
The most immature receiver in the NFL.
Dak Prescott is so
He's
screwed.
fucked.
He's so screwed. We're not even mentioning the fact that Dallas has got to figure out a way to get by the Commanders and the Eagles in their own division, let alone the entire NFC.
Yeah, forget it. Dallas can't get out of their own way.
This is what Jerry Jones said he wanted, though. He loves the drama.
Yeah.
He wants the Cowboys in the headlines each and every week. Okay, you got it now, buddy.
For the worst.
You got it now.
Ugh.
All right, moving on to college football. A couple of interesting little tidbits in college football. Yes, we have another self-imposed Michigan head coach suspension. And I love how they get to pick and choose.
Pick the games that they want to suspend them for.
They're not just Michigan head coach Sharon Moore, who's going into his second season, will serve a 2-game self-imposed suspension because of, all the controversy, the scandal.
Thing.
Yeah. But is he taking the first 2 games?
No.
Because one of those games is against Oklahoma.
God forbid.
So they're choosing to sit their head coach, let's put it that way.
And the weaker 2 games.
Games 3 and 4 of the season against Central Michigan and Nebraska.
That shit don't fly.
If you're going to pull this first 2 games.
Yep, regardless. First 2, get it over with. Show you're actually serious.
Huh.
Maybe the NCAA has no teeth anymore anyway. But now if they can still come down and give more. If I were running the infractions from the NCAA, I'd tack on 2 additional games and make them the first 4 games of the season.
See, I agree with you completely. But the problem with the NCAA right now, especially when it comes to football, is they are being run by the Big Ten
and the SEC.
So, they're just going to go, oh, yes, it's wonderful that you're self-imposing
Yeah, no,
these two
it's
games.
not. First two.
Yeah, I'm with you. If somebody had any balls in the front office, yeah, it's okay, you're playing this little cutesy game here where you're going to go, oh, well, 3 and 4 is where... No. Now it's all 4.
Now it's all 4. The first 4 games,
you tried to
done.
fuck around with us. Now you get hammered even worse. But that only makes sense in a logical, sane world where you're actually trying to penalize people who broke the rules.
Which, once again, we have to run everything.
Yeah. College football is just
College
falling
football
apart
is
right now.
dead.
And basketball is not too far
right
behind.
there.
Oh, but Notre Dame, the Irish, toughening up that schedule. 12-year scheduling deal with Clemson, which will run from 2027 through 2038.
And is not part of the 5-game ACC schedule that Notre Dame needs to play.
Ooh, Notre Dame.
They need to just bite the bullet and join the ACC full-time for everything.
It's like our buddy Jamie said, though, when we were discussing this a couple days ago on our text thread.
Yeah.
Is that it doesn't matter because in 5 years, it's all going to end up consolidated. It's going to be East, West. You're going to have 20 teams in each or 30 teams in each. And
your conferences are going to be your divisions. So what does it fucking matter that you get the super conferences now as it is?
Yeah. So I completely understand what Notre Dame's doing here. This is a big money, big time matchup, and good for them because this is a very solid,
it's a solid
year
program.
in, year out challenge on their schedule.
And it's going to be regardless what conference Clemson is going to be in.
Right, because there's that looming out there too.
Does Clemson go Big Ten? Does Clemson go SEC?
Again, 5 years. It'll
all blow up.
Yeah. And nobody's going to have the balls. I'm obsessed with balls this week. Nobody's going to have the balls to do anything about it. They're just going to let it happen.
So pathetic.
And how long is it going to be before you've got players... dozens and dozens of players in college football making more than professional players. We're almost there. We're almost there.
Yeah. Yeah, because the NIL deals for some of these guys are more than the NFL league minimum.
Exactly.
So why jump to why jump to the NFL if you can make more playing college ball?
All right, let's do some badasses of the week. Now, we just talked about the NHL. We're not going to go back through the previous round, but I do want to point out in the first round, the Dallas Stars beat the Colorado Avalanche in 7 games. And the man responsible for that pretty much was Mikko Rantanen. Mikko Rantanen, for the first time ever in a Game 7 in NHL playoff history, hit a hat trick in the 3rd period against Colorado.
Crazy. That's stepping up.
That's a badass. That, my friends, is a badass. Now, we're going to be talking about NASCAR here in a few minutes. But before I forget, because I have a tendency... I'm going to be 60 this year. Jesus Christ. I'm an old man. But I'm not as old as Don Graves. Do you know who Don Graves is, Dave?
Who is Don Graves, Kevin?
Don Graves is a 100-year-old survivor of Iwo Jima who sang the national anthem before the Worth 400 race this past Sunday at Texas. And he did a stellar job for a 100-year-old man.
Nice.
So, very good moment.
I missed the beginning of it.
I did too. I watched it later on. But, yeah, I had a couple Polk's couple stories that told me you got to check this out. And it was great moment. Great moment for America.
Nice.
Let's talk a little golf. How shall we? As we work into we're a couple weeks away from the next major. I believe is it the PGA Championship, I believe, coming up here in May.
Sounds right.
Well, Scotty Scheffler's ready to go. Scotty Scheffler tied the PGA Tour 72-hole scoring record this past weekend, carding a 253, 31 under.
Let's hope he better hope he didn't peak too soon.
Well, again, we've talked about this live golf versus PGA Tour crap for now, 2 years?
Yeah.
I looked at the leaderboard and who was challenging him. Nobody.
Well,
Nobody we would know. No. Spieth, I think, was the only one. Jordan Spieth was the only big name.
Oh, geez.
In the top 15 outside of him. But still, you're playing the course. You're not playing the other golfers. You're playing the course. So, kudos to Scotty Scheffler. Didn't get arrested, so
that's always a good sign.
And then, one of the most prestigious golf courses in America, the Riviera Country Club, had a little bit of interesting action this past week, but of course that's not where the PGA Tour was. A small plane had to make an emergency landing this past Friday on Riviera Country Club.
Yep, and the jokes flew. Does he have to replace all his divots? That's not the birdie I was expecting.
There's video out there for you kids to watch.
Just crazy, and you got the golfers watching this thing come in, just like, what the hell?
So, of course, now next year we talked about the NBA. And I know Dave loves to keep revisiting the NBA, his favorite sport in the world. But when it comes to the media, we have the changing of the guard coming next season, where we're going to have Amazon Prime Video taking over part of the coverage and NBC jumping back in.
Yep.
So, of course, we got to talk about who are the talking heads who are going to be regaling us with their stupid blathering tales.
Wah, 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 wah.
Well, NBC is bringing in Carmelo Anthony. That's fine. Great. Great.
Yay. That could be good or bad.
Hopefully a better NBA analyst than he was a basketball player. He was James Harden before James Harden.
Yeah.
Is what he was. Compiler. That's all he was a compiler. And he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, shouldn't be.
Amazon Prime's coverage will feature Steve Nash, Dwayne Wade, and Udonis Haslem.
That could be fun to listen to.
That could be a little better. And Udonis Haslem seems like the oddball there, so that tells me that he's got to have something. Although ESPN thought Kendrick Perkins had something.
Kendrick Perkins was an idiot.
And he ends up being a racist douchebag.
No, I'm interested to listen to Nash and Wade.
Yeah, the wars they've fought and they've been through.
Yeah. Those two could be fun to listen to.
Yep. Yeah, because as opposed to Carmelo Anthony, who never accomplished anything in his career, Nash was a 2-time MVP. Dwayne Wade won multiple titles.
Yeah. There you go. They accomplished something.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't talked about one of our panelists, one of our compatriots in quite a while. And that, of course, would be the governor, Doug. And that means we got to be talking about either pickleball or horse racing.
And we just had the Kentucky Derby.
Now,
it was a mutter's paradise.
Yeah. Hello, mutter. Hello, fada. Here I am at the Kentucky Derby. Drinking mint juleps and sounding pretty stupid. So in the end, nobody cares. Okay, Sovereignty won 5-1 odds. Not the favorite, but pretty damn close.
Pretty close.
I think second on the list in terms of odds, in
Yeah.
terms of favorites. But the news is more what happens afterwards and behind the scenes. So, depressing news for all the horse racing fans out there.
Yeah.
All 4 of you. They've already squashed all enthusiasm you might build up for
the possibility of a Triple Crown.
Yeah, as Sovereignty will not run the Preakness.
Nope. And they even said post-race that they didn't know if they were going to enter the horse in the Preakness. It all depended on the horse's recovery and how it fared in the days following.
And I heard somebody, 2 comments. I'm not taking credit for either one of these. I heard somebody say maybe they need to adjust the schedule
to give a little bit more time to recover.
That, very smart. Now, my new favorite overnight host on Infinity Sports Network, Pat Boyle, I've given him credit for this, but this is brilliant. He came out when this news broke, and he said, well, I guess load management has crept into horse racing. I couldn't stop laughing at that.
That's all. That's brilliant.
Yep. But obviously a lot of you out there want to watch the rich and the famous drinking the mint juleps because
it's a record.
Yep, there you go. Another record.
Another record viewership. Oh, boy.
17.7 million people tuned in to watch the Kentucky Derby, which is the most since 1989. Yikes.
Yay.
Then finally, you'll have to check out the weekend edition. This is going to be a very, very, how do I put this? Odd connection. But what I'm going to tell you right now, to wrap up our discussion of the Kentucky Derby, will in a way tie into something at the end of the weekend edition.
Are we going to go with a, now you'll know the rest of the story?
Let's just say this for the Kentucky Derby. Every horse boggles my mind. Every single horse that raced in the 2025 Kentucky Derby is a descendant of Secretariat.
Yep.
So Secretariat's boys can definitely swim. And then you'll have to check out the weekend edition for the rest of the story.
Thank you, Paul Harvey.
That's what we call foreshadowing. That's a tease.
That's a hook to get you to tune in to your Saturday morning hangover cure on Spotify, Good Pods, Pocket Casts, Apple, Overcast, CastBox, Amazon, Audible, and iHeart Sports Frenzy, baby.
And yes, we are still inching closer. Inching ever so closer to being on YouTube. I am still in the testing phase. Hopefully next week we will have an update on that. Don't forget to check out the Facebook page for our weekly baseball picks, our weekly NASCAR picks. Then, of course, in the fall, football picks as well.
And links to all episodes.
All right, baseball. Baseball.
Baseball not been very good to the White Sox.
Yeah, last night might have been...
Oh, my God, an all-new low.
Wow. I saw the highlights, the lowlights this morning.
My God, they played stellar defense for 8 innings.
And in the end, it helped us out because we have the Kansas City Royals this week.
So, first, Right fielder completely misplays a fly ball, lets it just go over his glove, and the damn gate's open. Then you got the second baseman, Chase Meadroth. Pop up, easy play. Glances off the edge of his glove and bounces off his damn head. And then a horrible throwing error on top of it by the guy who was backing him up.
The Royals come back and win.
And then bases loaded. What was it? 1 out, I think, and Bobby Witt Jr. comes up. Just needs a sac fly. Luis Robert Jr. half-asses it, lets the ball drop in front of him for the base hit. Doesn't even try to catch the ball to try and make a play at the plate. Anything could have happened. The runner could have taken off early, could have stumbled and fallen. You had a chance, but screw you, Robert, you lazy piece of crap. You need to give some effort. I hate when that shit happens. Ship his ass out. Although, does anybody want him with that kind of effort?
So the White Sox are 10-26.
Thank God for the Rockies.
Yep, White Sox are in 5th place, 12.5 behind the Detroit Tigers. I will not mention the fact that the A.J. Hinch experiment in Detroit is finally paying off, because I know how much you wanted him with the White Sox a few years ago.
Instead of Tony fucking I'm sleeping on the bench drunk off my ass La Russa.
But I am glad you brought up the Rockies, because I think it's time to institute a couple of Sports Frenzy watches. Watch number 1. Will the Rockies end up being worse than the White Sox?
Will we get a new historic loss record?
And right now, they are on pace.
Big time.
They are going into tonight's game. I believe they're playing the Tigers. That's not good.
That's not good for them.
Their record is 6-28. So if you do a little calculator math like I did, that's on pace for 29-133.
Oof.
Easily the worst record ever. And as I said last week when we discussed this, Jesus Christ, how does Bud Black continue to have a job as a manager?
Because the Rockies aren't paying for a payroll and they're not going to pay for a manager, so what do they care?
I'm telling you, I said this last week. Look at his Wikipedia page, and he has never been a good manager.
No, awful.
Yet somehow he's lasted well over 15 years as a manager on the major league level.
At this point, how do the Rockies still have a franchise in Colorado?
Well, thank you. That's a great segue, Dave. Thank you. Because then we get into the payroll disparity that is obviously affecting baseball. Over the last couple weeks, the LA Dodgers have been playing the Miami Marlins, the home and away, right? Yep. I believe they're wrapping it up today. I think the Dodgers did win today. Shohei Ohtani is making $70 million this year, technically.
Technically, yes.
That's not what he's getting in his bank account.
But technically.
For luxury tax cap purposes, he's making $70 million. The entire Marlins payroll is $67.9 million.
That's ridiculous.
Now, when you add in the payroll plus the luxury tax penalty that has to be paid, the difference between the Dodgers and the Marlins is $414.6 million.
That needs to be corrected.
The Dodgers in that number are going to end up paying $150.8 million just in luxury tax penalties. That number more than half the league. 15 teams. Their total payrolls are less than $150.8 million.
Hard cap, hard floor. We've been preaching it for decades.
But here's the problem. The idiot, Rob Manfred, is going to claim when he looks at a team like what we're calling the Sacramento A's, who are playing very well right now, because they're smart. They're a smart organization like the Tampa Bay Rays. They do the best they can with what they've got to work with.
Yeah, they can draft well. They evaluate talent well. Great. But when it comes time to put up a team, they trade off before they have to spend the money. So this doesn't work for sustainability.
No, and they're never going to be able, even if they sneak into the playoffs, they're never going to be able to compete with the likes of the Yankees and the Mets and the Dodgers.
Who pay out
and
the
we're
ass.
Still, but he's gonna. This is, you know how this works. He's gonna focus on that good story. Look at the Sacramento A's and look at how they're above 500 and they're challenging for first place in the AL West.
Bullshit,
he's gonna ignore the fact
bullshit.
that the Pirates suck again.
The Reds aren't all that.
The Rockies obviously abysmal. The White Sox obviously abysmal. The Marlins suck again. But he'll ignore all of that year after year after year. Those teams constantly being subpar and just taking all the penalty money from the Dodgers.
Yeah, and the Yankees and the Mets.
And, baseball's fine.
No.
Baseball's fine.
You're an idiot.
Okay, the other watch that we have got...
Timex, Seiko.
Rolex. I do remember years and years and years ago when the elder statesman went off overseas and brought us back watches.
Knockoff Rolexes.
Yeah. RQLEX. I still have mine. I still love it.
I still have it.
It stopped working after 3 days, but I still love it. But Aaron Judge, gotta give him some credit. He's all really the Yankees have right now. Him and Max Fried.
Yeah, that's it.
Aaron Judge, as of coming into today, Aaron Judge batting .412, by far first in Major League Baseball. He is tied for first again, entering today on May the 7th. Tied for first with 12 home runs. Tied for first with 34 RBIs. So, are we looking at Triple Crown? Are we looking at a 400 hitter?
400 is not going to last.
I hold out hope. Despite the fact I hate the evil empire, I don't hate Aaron Judge.
No.
I don't.
Just hate the team that he plays for.
Yes. Then, of course, we got to talk about the Cubs. Lost 2 of 3 here to the San Francisco Giants.
Yeesh.
A lot of power out in the NL West, I'm telling you.
And
Jesus God. Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and Diamondbacks. Don't be surprised if you get 4 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're crushing the ball.
But the Cubs lose 2 of 3.
You need a The Cubs need a closer badly.
Well, here are multiple problems with the Cubs right now. As they are 22-16, luckily, as we figured, it's been this way the last couple of years, the NL Central is pathetic. So they're still in first place, 3 up on now the Cardinals surging a little bit, and the Brewers. But as you said, last night, embarrassing for Ryan Presley. Embarrassing.
That was awful.
What was it? 8 earned runs with no outs?
Uh-huh. That was
his ERA ballooned from in the 2s to into the 6s, I believe.
Yeah, it was... I think they went higher than that.
Possible. I'm just speculating, but I know it was terrible.
Yeah, that was epically bad.
I'm not going to say I told you so.
We discussed it. You still don't have third base covered.
The offense is starting to lose that first month's momentum they had. Outside of the part-time catcher, Carson Kelly, nobody hitting 300 right now. All
Starting
those
to
guys,
scuffle a
Kyle
little
Tucker's fallen back.
PCA's fallen a
Yeah,
little.
little bit. Dansby Swanson has picked it up.
Starting to come up a little.
Seiya Suzuki has fallen off. And then now, the other problem with the Cubs is starting pitching.
Yep, you already lost Steele for the year, and now Emanagua, first time he's dealt with a hamstring strain. It's supposed to be a low grade, but you got to be careful. If he's never experienced it, that's something to watch out for.
Yeah. So the Cubs are without their top two pitchers, one for the entire year, and as you said, one who knows how long.
Yeah.
Imanaga's going to be out now. So this is why I was saying you still need to get another starting pitcher. And no, Ricketts, no, we're fine. We got to save that money for mid-season.
No, this is
now
when you have to have it.
Mid-season is now. You need to get another starting pitcher. Because right now it's Matthew Boyd, Brent Brown, and Jamison Tyone. You're not striking fear into the hearts of the Dodgers and the Mets and the Phillies.
No.
Sorry. And especially if the red-hot offense that is now cooling off is not going to put up 10 runs a game, this is a crucial moment in this season for the Cubs.
Yeah, put up or get the hell out of owning.
And then, of course, back on April the 30th, terrible, terrible moment when the Cubs were playing the Pittsburgh Pirates. We had a fan fall out of the stands, I believe in right field at PNC Park.
Got up to cheer a base hit and lost his balance and went over onto the field. Scary moment.
Good news is, by all accounts, starting to recover.
Yeah, starting to walk, which is a good thing.
Yep. And then another first player ever moment for the Detroit Tigers back on May the 2nd. Riley Green became the first player ever to hit 2 home runs in the 9th inning against the woeful, awful, another team that can't get out of its own way, the Los Angeles Angels.
Yeah.
But Mike Trout will be back soon.
Right.
Yeah, and right behind him, Anthony Rendon.
If Rendon ever plays another game again.
All right, so we've got a few weeks to go before the biggest weekend in racing, but that does not mean we neglect NASCAR and IndyCar and F1 until that time.
That's right.
So, we have a recap of Texas, the Worth 400, race 11 in the NASCAR Cup Series for 2025. Carson Hocevar. Now, I had a debate with my neighbor about this, because he hates everything in life. He doesn't read books. He doesn't watch movies. He doesn't like sports anymore except for NASCAR. And he and I have this gentleman's bet. Of course, he wanted to bet like thousands of dollars.
Because he's an idiot.
Yes. And I bet him Carson Hocevar will win a cup race before Ty Gibbs.
Ooh.
Because Ty Gibbs disappointed me. I did not have Ty Gibbs in Sports Frenzy, but I did have him in my NASCAR.
Your
36 for 36. Yeah, the one that's unbelievably difficult, where you get to pick one driver for every race throughout the year, and that's it. And I thought Ty Gibbs, this would be his week. And he shit the bed again.
He's not ready for this.
But I think Carson Hocevar is.
Hocevar is showing signs that he can break out this year.
Yes. Now, in the end, what happened was we had a lot of different drivers. Tyler Reddick looked good at one point. William Byron looked good at one point. Ryan Blaney looked good. But in the end, even though he was disqualified the week before...
Screw you, Logano. Screw you, Team Penske.
Dave's not bitter. Not bitter.
No.
But Joey Logano comes in the winner in Texas. So he's locked himself in to the playoffs yet again.
Jerk.
It's amazing to me that he's a 3-time champion.
I know. He's inconsistent as all hell.
And I still didn't like last week. I still don't like his little petulant bullshit behavior.
Yeah.
In terms of...
Yeah. Shut up, jerk.
But he won. He did win.
Don't like him as a driver. I do like him as an announcer.
Yes, I agree completely. Then, for F1 fans, the Miami Grand Prix, Oscar Piastri won his 3rd straight race. What?
Who?
I thought only Max Verstappen was supposed to be allowed to win.
Thankfully, we are seeing a changing of the guard.
Yeah, was it McLaren is dominating right now?
Yeah. And that's what you get in F1 all the time. You get a team that goes on these monster dominant runs. It's always been that way. Except for Ferrari, they've had a really rough go.
Isn't that
for a
where,
long damn time.
Lewis Hamilton went to Ferrari, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we reported this. The rumors were out there. It's official now. Next year, the 2026 championship race for all the NASCAR Truck, Xfinity, Cup Series will go back to Homestead, Miami.
Miami. Sorry.
And I know there's limitations in terms of weather, and I know they want to rotate. That's fine, but why didn't you give it to Texas, or give it to Vegas, or give it to Atlanta? Why go back to Homestead, Miami?
Because they're already ready to go. They've done it before. But the tracks you mentioned should be in the rotation with Miami
They will be.
and Phoenix.
Yeah, they will.
That's what you need to have.
They will.
And then eventually maybe the California track if it ever gets built.
Yeah. The new configuration of Fontana.
Yeah, the new short track or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I've heard people say, certain neighbors say, why don't you run Daytona? Why don't you run Talladega?
No, you don't do that for a championship race.
That's what I said.
It's too much of a wild card.
Yeah, we're not doing Sonoma. We're
road
not doing a road
courses,
course. Not for the final race. Now, we did have the discussion you and I always have about fix the format and let's stop with the bullshit, eliminations every 3 races.
Why do we even have to have a playoff format?
Try to go back to the old school format or find a happy medium.
It wasn't broken.
They went too far the other way. All because of Matt Kenseth. And we say this, seems like every couple months we bring this up. The points are the purest, cleanest way. You can keep your stage racing, that's fine.
Yeah, that's
because
fine.
I thought it was idiotic in the old days to give somebody a point for leading the halfway lap. That's just random and stupid.
And only 1 point for leading the most laps.
That that deserved more.
That deserved more. And then a race win deserved more than just 1 point ahead of second.
Yes. And they fixed that. They have fixed that.
And I don't mind the stage points. That's fine.
Yeah.
That rewards more consistency.
All right.
But go back, eliminate this bullshit playoff system. 36 races straight up, top points wins it. And if it's clinched a few races before
you and
the
I
end,
need
then
to stop
so
even
be it.
thinking about that. That's never going to happen. It needs to be a compromise. I think you have to have one elimination early on after 3 races, and then the rest of it straight points. The last 7
Why
races.
do you even have to have an elimination once you get to the top 10? The final 10 races.
There you go. There's
just
another
reset,
idea.
and they just run the straight points.
And that's fine.
Which is what they had at the beginning when they had these final 10.
And it's fine if you want to reward people for winning races. You're going to put them in automatically. That's fine. But if you go straight points, then you're going to find out Harrison Burton
never should have fucking had a sniff
ain't
of
going to
being
cut
there.
it. That was the only time where I could look back and say the eliminations worked. Because they got his ass out of the way real quick. All right, before we move on to Dave's homework, his yearly homework at this point, every year, I just want to
Because they always change it.
I just want to point out a magical moment here.
This magic moment.
Catherine Liggy is releasing her first ever kids book, looking back at her childhood. It's called Cat's Magic Helmet. And we can only hope she's a better kids book writer than she is a driver. Ba-doom-ba! Ba-doom-ba! I couldn't wait.
You were waiting for that.
Hey, at least I'm not saying all the vile, nasty stuff the trolls are saying about her online. That's pretty tame.
That is pretty tame. That's pretty tame.
But yeah, I'm like, oh my God. Can we
Seriously.
stop with her already? And then Danica Patrick showed up at, the IndyCar race wearing a bed sheet? Did you see the pictures?
No.
Oh my God. She literally...
Was it Least Shear?
No, she looked like she was wearing a toga from Animal House. And then, because of the rain, they're all walking down pit road and they got their umbrellas, and hers got kind of turned inside out. Little Miss Priss just dropped the umbrella and kept walking. It's like, wow. All right, all that leads us into your Uncle Dave.
We have coming up the 2025 All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro Speedway. So, who qualifies for the All-Star Race? All winners from the 2024-2025 regular point races. Anyone who's hasn't won but has won an All-Star Race and competes full-time in Cup. And who's won a championship and competes full-time in Cup. So, little stipulations in there. So, we get to qualifying, and they've revised the qualifying here a little bit. It will now be combined with the Pit Crew Challenge. So, it will be 3 laps with a mandatory 4-tire stop on the second lap. This will be used, the 4-tire stop will set the line, the qualifying will be used to set the lineup for the All-Star Open. And then also both 60-lap All-Star heats. The fastest lap, or the fastest pit stop will win the Pit Crew Challenge and will win first overall pit selection. So, how will they measure the timing lines? It will be 1 pit stall before and 1 pit stall after the designated pit box. So there you go. Now, the All-Star Open 100-lap qualifying race for all those drivers who do not have a win or do not qualify otherwise. There will be a competition break around lap 40. 3 will advance, the first and second place finishers and the fan vote winner.
I voted. I did vote, by the way.
Nice. Good for you.
You want to know who I voted for?
Who did you vote for? Carson Hocevar?
No, just because
I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay. No. I voted for the dinger. I love the dinger.
There you go.
I can't live without the dinger.
All right. Everybody needs a little more dinger in their life.
You think I was going to vote for Bubba?
Oh, no. All right.
Bubba can go hang himself.
Oh, wow. Wow. Wow.
There we go. The angry messages are going to start flowing in now. YouTube says, we don't want you. Don't even try.
Bye-bye. All right. The All-Star race itself, the lineup for it will be set by 2 heat races. The finishing order of Heat 1 sets up the inside row. The finishing order of Heat 2 sets up the outside row. Revised part, they have added 50 laps to this. It's now going to be 250 laps. They have also added an optional promoter's caution to mix up the competition. This must be used by lap 220. It can't be used if a natural caution happens after lap 200. So there you go. Will they throw it at the halfway point? Or hope there's no caution and try and get it as late as they can? Intriguing. Another revised piece to this is the manufacturer's showdown. All drivers from the least represented make. So what would it be? Toyota has the fewest drivers?
That's what I would say. Well, see, I would.
It's one of those.
I don't know, but I would lean towards Toyota too. That's what I was thinking.
So all drivers from the least represented make will participate, and then the other 2 makes will have an equal number of drivers to make it up, based on grid positions. So however they start in the thing, they'll take the top however drivers. They will be scored against each other. The manufacturer with the lowest total finishes will win. So if there's a tie, it will be broken by the manufacturer with the top finish.
You know, the more I think about it, maybe Ford is right. Because Toyota's got Gibbs, Trackhouse, Legacy.
2311. So it might be Ford.
Yeah, it might be Ford.
Ford might have the fewest, so.
All right, there you go, kids.
Go.
I know every year you look forward to this when your Uncle Dave does homework for the All-Star race and, of course, for the Clash. Oh, and it was great of NASCAR this week to come out and say, oh, we're thinking the Clash will stay in America this coming year.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Jackasses.
Throw us a bone. Thanks a lot. What are you turning into, the NFL? All right, all that being said, before we get to the All-Star race break, the final break, before we go nonstop all the way through to the end, except we're going to have the in-season tournament. The Horn of Disgrace is getting an absolute workout tonight.
And rightly so.
Yes. Before we get to the All-Star race break, the final race leading into that is race 12. Unfortunately, sad, I say this every year, this is the final regular season cup race where we have the end of the Fox coverage. No more Clint Boyer, no more Kevin Harvick, no more Mike Joy. Now we move on to Steve Letarte.
Dale Jr. and Adam.
Adam Alexander.
Adam Alexander.
So the Advent Health 400 from Kansas Speedway. A little bit of a mixed bag here, but there are some common picks.
Yep. So the top driver pick this week is Kyle Larson for the Maestro, the Big Blue W, and Mrs. C.
Now, you and Aaron agree on the fact that the Melon Man could be very strong this week. Ross Chastain for Dave and Aaron. Doug is taking Tyler Reddick.
And the elder statesman trying to go back-to-back wins is taking Denny Hamlin.
Nick, tardy, as always.
He still has time, but we worry at this point because if he doesn't have it by now, he might be late.
Yep. So we shall see what happens. Because, of course, Nick doesn't really care. So he'll pick Ryan Blaney or Denny Hamlin.
Who he doesn't have any more of.
Yes, because he already maxed them both out, even though we're only at race 12 of 26. Once again, Kyle Larson for me, for Bill, for Jen, Ross Chastain for Dave and Aaron, Doug, Tyler Reddick, Sam, Denny Hamlin, Nick's an a-hole. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Yes, you did.
I'm so sorry, Nick. Not. Because you and Doug drive me fucking nuts every week. At least Doug has finally realized, I don't need to send 2 picks in for baseball and 2 picks in for NASCAR?
No, you don't. Do it again and you will be up for the Red Foreman Dumbass of the Week.
All right, good news. No moments of silence that we can see any... I know there have been some...
There's been some, but
we are going to...
take the top.
Spend our time worrying about the legends.
Yes.
Okay? And speaking of legendary, we move on and we
don't even have to pivot. There's nothing to pivot from.
But we have legendary dumbasses this week. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7. Now, don't get upset with me, Dave, because on the weekend edition, we'll be the bare minimum. We'll have our 3, and that's it.
There we go.
But, yeah, the dumbass roster for this week is, yes, legendary. Let's start off with the mild ones. The ones that probably won't jump out in terms of true contenders for the end. But they still qualify. Let's start off with hockey. Let's start off with the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota has lost not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, but 9 straight playoff series.
Ouch.
As they recently here this past week lost in 6 games to the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
But they made the playoffs.
Yeah. You sound like a Detroit Lions fan, Dave.
How about a bitter Blackhawks fan?
Last time I checked, you have 3 Stanley Cup titles in this century. So, still don't have much to bitch about there.
No, but I'd like more.
All right. We have got a NASCAR driver who doesn't seem to understand karma. When you're in Texas, the worst thing you could probably do to offend the gods, the racing gods, the football gods, the gods of Texas, deep in the heart of Texas, is to come out when you're introduced and do the horns down.
Ooh.
And that would be one Denny Hamlin. And guess what happened to Denny Hamlin after he came out in driver introductions and did the horns down at Texas? His car caught on fire 30 laps into the race. That, Mr. Hamlin, is what we call karma. And karma is always a bitch.
Oh, Denny, we know you like to be hated because you have a chip on your shoulder.
And time's running out. He's in his mid-40s now. No titles. No cup title. Now, Dave's been waiting on this one for a while, so this is probably for him the front runner. But we have 2. We're going to do 2 back-to-back here involving still We thought we were done with this. We thought we were over this, but Shedeur Sanders. And
he is never going to be out of the headlines. You know this.
First up, and we go all the way back to the early 90s, discussing the birth of the stupid lawsuit. The old woman who spilled hot coffee at McDonald's on her lap has helped to destroy our society as we know it. Case in point for this week, an unnamed fan is suing the NFL for $100 million. Why? Did something happen? Were they anally raped at the draft? What happened? No. An unnamed fan, I believe from Georgia, who happens to be a fan of Colorado, the University of Colorado, says that Shedeur Sanders' fall in the draft not only has violated the Civil Rights Act going back to the 60s, but caused emotional distress.
Dumbass! You are a fucking moron. I hope you get charged by the NFL $100 million for being an idiot. You should go to jail for filing a frivolous lawsuit. It holds no merit because, I think, the last 3 overall number 1 picks at quarterback were black quarterbacks.
Yeah, somehow they seem to forget that, don't they? Including the great and the glorious Cam Ward this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is just so freaking stupid. This is how pathetic this country has become. What a joke our legal system has become, where any idiot can file a stupid fucking suit.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I'm going to file a suit against this moron for causing emotional distress.
Hey, watch it. You pointed at me there.
I'm pointing at your notes there.
Okay. Because I don't need that today. That happens to me pretty much every day. I don't need you to do this today.
If this goes through, I want to file suit against this asshat.
Where's Doge?
Yeah.
Doge should be like, out. No more wasting our money.
Exactly.
Out. But Elon Musk is too busy putting out Tesla fires, literally.
Oh, God. Yeesh.
Now, part 2 of this. This is a separate but equal. Notice civil rights? Separate but equal dumbass involving Shedeur Sanders. And this would be the legendary Tom Brady. Tom Brady comes out on a podcast, I believe with, God help us all, Logan Paul.
Oh, Lord.
And says Shedeur Sanders should use the fall, his precipitous fall in the draft, quote, use it as motivation, unquote. Here's my question to the minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Why didn't you draft him?
If you thought he was that good. I believe you had a couple of opportunities, Tom.
And Shedeur still loves him and is going to go with number 12 with the Cleveland Browns in honor of Tom Brady. But
no, it's because somebody else took his number 2 before he had a chance.
But I find this very funny that Tom Brady comes out and says all this wonderful stuff about Shedeur when you could have drafted him multiple times in multiple rounds and you passed on him. But use it as motivation, Shedeur.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if have we ever had a literal dumbass? I think this might qualify as a literal dumbass, Dave. The University of Akron has received a 2025 postseason football ban from the NCAA for consecutive failures to reach minimum academic qualification rates.
Wow. You would expect that
dumbasses.
from one of the big schools in the Big Ten or SEC. But Akron in the MAC? And you have nothing to show for it.
No.
That's pretty freaking bad.
Yeah. That is truly, literally dumbasses.
Yes.
All right. We make no bones about the fact that we hate soccer. Right, Dave? No.
Absolutely.
Hates. Here is example number 5,247,316 why we hate soccer.
Write that number down so we can keep the tally climbing.
I'm going to get it tattooed on my ass.
Soccer sucks. It really, really sucks.
We actually had a game this past week where a team won despite getting 0 shots on goal.
Oh!
Sporting KC. Lots of Kansas City this week, by the way. Notice this?
Yes.
Sporting KC beat the defending MLS champion LA Galaxy 1-0.
Penalty kick?
No, what they call an own goal score.
Oh no, LA
It bounced off the backside of a Galaxy player. So somehow,
you know, we've seen it time and again in the NHL. We're trying to clear a puck, it bounces off your own guy and goes in.
oh, come on. Don't degrade the NHL. I know you're right, but let's not compare the two.
It happens.
But have you ever had a hockey team get 0 shots on goal?
No, never.
And win a game?
No.
This is why soccer sucks. And all you millions of idiots out there, yes, millions of idiots who think this game is awesome.
That's pretty bad.
Especially overseas. I have a message to our friends overseas. Come over to American football. Come to the dark side. You will love it. You will love every
Goodell's
second
trying
of
to
it.
push that.
But we're trying to save them from this shit. And they riot and they beat each other up at these games.
It's ingrained in those morons because they don't have a quality sport to follow.
What kind of regimes are you living under? This is your enjoyment? This is your be-all, end-all? Read a book! Watch a Netflix, last time I checked, is available around the world. Watch a movie.
Paint a wall and watch the paint dry.
It's gotta be more exciting than this. God help us all. And finally, I'm not going to pull any punches.
No!
But we're going to talk about boxing to wrap up this edition of the Dumbasses of the Week, and then we'll put it to a vote. So we picked on soccer. We picked on NASCAR. Obviously picked on the NFL. College football, the NHL, so boxing. Which used to be entertaining. The heavyweight,
gentleman's sport.
The great heavyweight fights in the 80s and the 90s with George Foreman and Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield. Great stuff. Now, you'd only get 2 a year at most.
Yeah.
Now, I was never into the whole Sugar Ray Leonard stuff, the middleweights, the bantamweights, all that crap. I was just like, give me the heavyweights.
Yes. Chavez and De La Hoya.
There you go. Yeah.
Roy Jones Jr.
Now, this fight, which just happened within the last week, involves one of the biggest names in boxing, Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez taking on William Skull this past Saturday night. Super middleweight, undisputed title, so all the belts were involved. All the belts were involved. There is something they have, of course, with technology called CompuBox, which tallies up how many punches are thrown.
Right.
This Canelo Alvarez-William Skull fight featured the fewest punches thrown in a 12-round fight in 40 years.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's how pathetic this fight was.
Ugh.
Ever since the advent of CompuBox, going back to the 80s, the fewest punches thrown in a 12-round fight in 40 years. So just like soccer, what the fuck you doing, boxing? Something's wrong here.
Boxing gone downhill badly.
Yes. So, here are your final nominees for this week's Red Foreman Dumbass of the Week Award. The Akron football program for literally being dumbasses. Tom Brady for trying to pump up Shedeur Sanders while passing him up in the draft. The $100 million lawsuit for civil rights violations and emotional distress from an unnamed fan. The Minnesota Wild for losing 9 straight playoff series. Denny Hamlin, horns down and then on fire. Canelo Alvarez and William Skull setting a new 40-year record for least punches thrown in a boxing match. And soccer for having a match where a team won with no shots on goal. I know what you want.
So many worthy. I have to go with the dumbass fan filing the lawsuit. I have to. I am just so pissed off with that.
Oh boy, it's hard for me to go against you on that. You know, anytime we discuss this bullshit, frivolous, legal crap, I get fired up. Because that is one thing that I cannot stand. That people like us, normal people who follow the rules, we still live our lives in fear because once somebody walks across your front yard, trips, breaks their leg, sues you for emotional distress and pain, and lawyers will make it so, well, yeah, you don't have a case, you're going to lose because he did trip on your property and
why was he on
leg.
my property trespassing?
They don't care. You know, I'm with you on this, but they don't care. That's why.
Then I'm countersuing for the emotional distress his suit has brought upon me.
I agree with you. You know I do. I'm agreeing with you on the dumbass of the week.
Second would have been Akron.
The literal dumbasses, yes. I probably would have gone with soccer. Just to once again prove why I hate soccer so much.
Good,
and I will turn on UFL football before I will watch a second of fucking soccer. Seriously. And I don't watch the UFL. I watched a little bit the first year.
And there we go.
So if you're a lawyer out there involved in a frivolous lawsuit, fuck you to hell and back! Otherwise, we love all of you out there.
All of our loyal listeners.
Yes. Don't forget to check out the weekend edition where Dave and I...
We have a loaded slate.
We do, but I'm going to let you down.
There's a lot of news.
Yes, but I'm going to let you down in one aspect. Now, we're going to review Billy Idol's new album, Dream Into It. We have got very, very close. One episode left before the season finale of Tracker. I am caught up.
Oh, good.
So we'll review that, where we are to this point.
Yep.
I've started season 3 of Dark Winds. Couple weeks, maybe next week, but 2 weeks at most.
For sure. All right.
I will have season 3 of Dark Winds done. I have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 movie reviews. 1 or 2 of those will involve your Uncle Dave. Now, I do not have my book review ready yet.
You're killing me, Smalls.
I know. That's where I knew I was going to disappoint you. But next week for sure.
All right.
Hap and Leonard. Next week for sure. But yes, we have a ton of other stuff to discuss. Trailers, movie news, TV news. We have 3 dumbasses. Some of them very ugly. nasty.
Disturbing.
Yes. So I know that's not the best way to entice you to listen to the weekend edition, but trust me, it will still be fun beyond belief.
Because it's your favorite politically incorrect pop culture commentary.
Your Uncle Dave and I will make it fun. We will figure out how to take the worst, nastiest, most heinous shit the world has to offer and somehow make it funny. That's what we do.
We have to find the humor. We
Yes.
have to laugh so we don't cry.
This is why we are the coolest, most awesome men on the face of the earth. My ex-wife, his wife probably don't agree, but that's their problem, not ours! Now, his wife probably does love him, but...
Most of the time. Most of the time.
Do not forget, this Saturday morning, May the 10th, to check out your Saturday morning hangover cure. But until then, he's your Uncle Dave, the conquistador, Dave Height.
He's your Uncle Kev, the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And until we talk to you again on Saturday morning, or if you just want to do the sports stuff, that's fine. Next Thursday morning, say goodnight to the kids, Dave.
Good night to the kids, Dave.